Good morning and welcome to the first day of managerial accounting for the spring 2022 semester. We have a combination class. We have some students who attend on campus in Olean, and we also have even more students than that who are joining us on Zoom. These videos are also made available for the students who are in the asynchronous online class as well. Today is our introduction to the class, and so most of today, for those of you who had me for financial accounting, there won't be anything that you don't already know. So it'll be a refresher. If we have time at the end of the semester, at the end of the class, excuse me, I will also do a little bit of refresher from financial accounting, just so you remember what it is that you will need to know. Financial accounting is a prerequisite for this class, and so I do anticipate that you remember at least the basics, the foundation of accounting. And if you don't, if you've totally wiped from your mind everything you learned in financial accounting, you may need to go back and do a little bit of review to make sure that you're prepared for this semester. That being said, anything that's pretty specific, I will review in class when we're using it. So don't worry, even if it's been a little bit of time since you had financial accounting, we'll get you through it. It'll be fine, even if you didn't have me for financial. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is the homepage of our class in Blackboard. I know there's one person here who's not yet able to see it in Blackboard, but hopefully later today that will be available to you. But for everybody else, you should be able to see this, and for that person, you should just follow along on my screen. We'll be going through the contents of these folders as we work through class today, but the first thing we're going to do is talk about the syllabus. So the syllabus is linked here in Blackboard. There are two separate syllabi for this course. There's the master course syllabus, which we are not going to go through. That is the institutional syllabus. So everything that's on there applies to every single section of this course at JCC. It includes the learning outcomes and a topical outline. And so you're welcome to look at that. But really what's important for us is the instructor syllabus, which are my policies and what you can expect from this specific section of the class. That is a Word document, and so I'm just going to skip over to that. And so this is the document that you have access to. You're welcome to print it out. If I did make any changes to what was on here, I would let you know that in the announcements. I do post an announcement in Blackboard every class day, and just explaining what we've done that day in case you do miss a class or come late or leave early, so that you know what to do to be caught up the next time we meet. My office is on the Olean or Cattaraugus County campus. I do have office hours before and after this class. So if you happen to be in the Olean area, you are welcome to stop by my office. Of course, you don't need an appointment. And if you are not in the Olean area, you can reach me on Zoom during those office hours. The link to the Zoom office hours is on the syllabus here. It is also in our Blackboard course. So this link for Zoom meeting with Cindy Hines, that's the link you would use for my office hours. If you've made an appointment with me through Starfish, then I will know you're stopping in. I'll already have that Zoom meeting open. If you just are dropping by like you would in person if you were on campus, then what happens when you click on that link, I get an email that says that you have joined the room. And if I am available, which during my office hours I would be available unless I'm already with someone else. So if I'm available, I will just open that link and let you in from the waiting room. So if you do click on that link, you're welcome to use that outside my office hours. If I am available on my computer, if it's, whether it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 8 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, if I'm on my computer, I'll be happy to talk with you. So what I would ask is, if you click on that link, give me 2 minutes. If I haven't joined you in 2 minutes, that means that I am not available. And so then you can just send me an email and or schedule an appointment through Starfish. The link to Starfish is up here at the top of Blackboard in case you have never used that. I can't really show you how it works because I don't have the student version, but when you go into Starfish, what you will see is a link. What you will see is a link for My Success Network, and you will see me there as one of your instructors. If you want to meet with me, your advisor, or anyone else in your Success Network, you can see the hours that they have available in Starfish. And you can just make your appointment right from there. For me then, you can make appointments for on campus, on Zoom, or by telephone. Let's go back to our syllabus. My office telephone number is there. The best way to reach me though is by email. So I would encourage you, if you stop by my office or come to my office hours, if you wanted to see me outside of that, use the email to reach me, because it's much, the email comes in on my phone. I will be able to respond in most cases right away. If you call my office, I don't know about it until I'm back in my office, which is not always all day long every day. This class, as you all know because you're here, meets Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 10:40 a.m. I will, other than today, I will generally start right at 9 o'clock. And I'm usually standing here waiting for it to turn 9. And when it comes 9, I say, oh, look, it's 9 o'clock. And we'll get started. If you can't join us right on time for any reason, that's fine. Just join us when you can. By the same token, if you have to leave early on any given day, you are welcome to do that. I would prefer you were here for some of class rather than missing the whole thing.
So I was going to Starfish and just asking me when my office hours were. I'm not sure if it's like asking me to become an instructor, because when I said with an appointment, it's not even showing my instructor's now, so I'm not really sure it's going on.
Okay, give me 1 second. So I have, as I said, I have office hours before and after this class. And I teach at this time every day, Monday through Thursday. So my office hours are before and after all of my classes. But that's by no means, those are not the only times that I am available. I am available most afternoons, evenings, weekends. As I said, the best way to reach me during off hours is by email. But if you do need to set up an appointment, if you do need to speak to me face to face, or you need to be able to share your screen to walk through something you're questioning, then just send me an email and ask to set up an appointment time that's outside of the hours that I have scheduled. That's perfectly fine. That's what I'm here for. But I can't help you if you don't let me know, if you don't ask. The required text and materials for this class. I did actually bring my book this morning because I just like you all to see. So this is the textbook, and it's really thick and heavy. I should weigh it sometime. It has over 1,400 pages. For those of you who had me for financial accounting, we covered the first 14 chapters. And in this class, we will cover chapters 15 through 28. So at the end of the semester, we will be on page 1442. I'd just like to claim victory on that because we actually covered the entire really big textbook in class. You don't have to buy that textbook though. What you need for this class is the Cengage Unlimited one semester, 4-month subscription. The price is $119.99. You should not be paying any price higher than that. It might offer you a more than one semester or 4-month subscription. You don't need that. Just buy the 4-month. If you already had me for financial accounting and that was since fall of 2020 when I started using this product, you do not need to buy anything because the subscription that you got for my class before, my class is set up with Cengage to be a 2-semester class. So you only need one subscription. It works for both semesters. You'll just need to log into Cengage using the same login, username, and password that you set up last semester for most of you for my class. If you did not have me for financial accounting, you will need to purchase that subscription. There's no way around it. You have to have access to the online learning platform called CNow 2. And it is cheaper to buy this unlimited subscription, even if you're not using it for anything else. It's cheaper to buy the subscription because it gets you the ebook and the learning platform. It's cheaper to buy the subscription than it is to buy those two things separately. I will try to show you in a minute how to go about that, how the easiest way to go about that when we get back to Blackboard. It is a Cengage Unlimited subscription, and there are literally thousands of Cengage titles that are available through that same subscription. For those of you who had me last semester, it's not going to work for those other books this semester. It will work only for this class. But if you're buying a brand new subscription this semester and you're taking any other classes that require any Cengage textbooks, before you buy those books, I would suggest that you just check the unlimited subscription and see if it's on there. Because as I said, there are thousands. I know, for example, that Dr. Forney, who is teaching some classes on the Jamestown campus and online, at least 2 of her classes are also using Cengage textbooks. And so you should be able to get those textbooks as part of your subscription if you buy a brand new subscription this semester. So that's kind of cool. We are going to be covering 14 chapters this semester. And so as we look at the course evaluation, you'll notice for each of the 14 chapters, there will be a pre-quiz, a set of exercises, and one mastery problem. We also have an annual report project that we'll be talking about today, and we have 4 exams spaced throughout the semester. All of these assignments, with the exception of the annual report project, every other assignment is completed in that Cengage CNow application. So only 15% of your grade is outside of CNow. Clearly, it is not possible to pass if you don't have that CNow access. In a couple minutes here, we will get to the day-to-day schedule for the class, and you will see that the exam dates are already set for the class. You have generally a window of 4 days during which you are expected to take the exam. It covers just the chapters that we've had since the previous exam or for the first exam since the beginning of the semester. There is no comprehensive final exam. The exams are all open book, open notes. We'll talk about each exam. I'll actually have it open for you during class so I can show you before each exam. There's also a set of practice exercises that should help you with preparing for that exam that you might choose to do. They're optional, they're not graded, but they are helpful for many people to prepare for the exam. I do not have an attendance policy per se. You'll notice that there is no component in the course evaluation for attendance. That being said, I think people in general do better if you are scheduled for a live class like this. If you actually attend, people tend to do better. As you heard me say, every class is recorded and the recordings will be available for you. So if there is a day that you miss some or all of class, you can always watch that video to get caught up. I would encourage you to do that. as soon as possible after the missed class so that when you come into the next class, you are on the same page with everybody else. I don't really have a late assignment policy. Everything in Cengage does stay open, so you could submit something after the required due date. It is in your best interest to stay on track with those due dates, but if you were to miss an assignment or you get called into work when you'd planned to finish it or whatever, you can always work on that assignment the next day. I would not want you to turn in work that was not your best work. If you think you can still make improvements on it, if you needed to go over something with me or something like that, you can turn things in after the assigned due date. Cengage will allow you to do that because of the way I have it set. I'm going to skip through the rest of this. I assume that most or all of you are familiar with Starfish and how to use it. I just showed you where to go, the My Success Network in Starfish, to set up an appointment with me or with any of your other instructors or with your advisor if that does not happen to be a teacher. I will use Starfish also to communicate with you. So for example, take exam 1, you do a great job on exam 1, you might see a kudos email coming from me that says, hey, great job on exam 1, keep it up. If I'm concerned about your progress, if you're missing assignments, if you're missing class and assignments, you might see a flat, what's called a flag, come from me through Starfish as well. So that's our early warning or early alert system to help students stay on track. Page 3 of the syllabus shows each Tuesday, Thursday for the entire semester and what I would anticipate covering on that day. It is possible that on any given chapter, we could need a little bit of extra time. If that happens, then we'll just move things back a little bit. But in general, we have 30 classes this semester, 15 weeks, twice a week. We have 14 chapters to cover. So we will be covering each chapter in 2 classes, plus today, and then if you scroll down, you'll notice the last day is listed as optional review class if needed. I do not anticipate there being a need to cancel class. If there is a day that the weather is like yesterday was, and let's say the campus is closed, then you should be signed up for the alert system through JCC so that you get, they'll notify you any number of ways. You might, I get text message, phone call to my home and my office, emails to my home and my office, all sorts of alerts to let you know, hey, something's going on. If you do, and you should sign up for those alerts through Banner. If you do get an alert, please make sure you read or listen to it very carefully. Sometimes the alerts are campus specific. So it's much more likely, for example, that the location in Dunkirk, which sits right on Lake Erie, it's much more likely that they will be closed or closing early due to weather than that we in Olean would be. So if you do get an alert, please make sure you pay careful attention to it. If there's a day that I can't come to campus for some reason, so just like any other person coming on campus, I have to do the screening in the morning. If there's a day that I can't pass the screening, I'm not allowed to come to campus. Unless I'm actually not well, I will still have class and we will just do it on Zoom. And so I'm particularly talking to people who do attend on campus. I would post an announcement in Blackboard. So if you think the weather's bad, if you think, it's just a good idea to keep an eye on those announcements before you drive to campus in the morning. Okay. So I would anticipate that we will have class every day. And if there's a day that that I can't be here on campus for some reason, we'll just move the class to Zoom. And I would announce that. For those of you who are scheduled to be here on Zoom, please know that you are welcome to join us on campus at any time, provided that you meet the governor's mandate for the being fully vaccinated, including if it's been more than 6 months since the end of your vaccine series. You have to have the booster shot, or you have to have an exemption granted by the college. Those exemptions are for either religious or medical, and you can request one of those if you do want to be able to come on campus and you don't meet the vaccine requirement. So I would be happy to have any of you join us here on campus if you are allowed to do that. Even if you're registered for the Zoom class, that's perfectly fine. The dates that we do not have class are also given here. So there is a Monday, Tuesday in February, the 21st and 22nd. The 21st is President's Day. I believe that's a college holiday. But definitely no classes that day. Tuesday's Faculty Development Day. And so I will be here, but you all do not have class on the 22nd. Then we have a week in April. I believe it's the week leading up to Easter as opposed to the week after Easter, but definitely corresponding with Easter, where there are no classes at all. April 11th, which is a Monday, through the 17th. So our last class prior to the break will be April 7th, and then we will come back on the 19th. Stop me if you have any questions. The final page of the syllabus gives all of the due dates for the semester. Now, absolutely none of these will move up. In other words, I'm not going to say, hey, that thing I said was due January 27th, it's actually going to be due on the 25th. I would never do that. If we were to get behind on a chapter and need a little bit of extra time, need more than the 2 days we have budgeted, then we will bump some due dates out possibly. And that might happen once or twice during the semester. It could happen. But in general, these are the dates. So we'll be talking about the annual report when we get to Blackboard in just a moment, but you'll notice there are 4 separate due dates listed for that. For each chapter, we have a pre-quiz that is due the day we start the chapter in class. We have exercises that are due the day we finish the chapter, and we have a problem that's due the next class day. So that pattern will repeat all through the semester. The due dates, other than the exams, the due dates are all Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll be talking about each one of these 3 different types of assignments in just a few minutes. The exams, as I mentioned, are officially open for a 4-day period, other than the last exam of the semester. So the first 3 exams, it's all a Thursday through Sunday, after we finish the chapter and after the problem is due for that final chapter. The exams are time limited unless you have accommodations. There's a 3-hour time limit, but they are open book and open notes. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the middle of February as the first exam is approaching. All the due dates are here right now, and eventually they will all be on the Blackboard calendar as well. As of today, the only ones that are in the Blackboard calendar are the annual report project, and I'll talk about that more in a second. We go to Blackboard. Any questions about the syllabus?
I got an exception the last semester to follow through this one.
Yes. Okay, so when I click on the calendar in Blackboard, as I said, the only due dates that are showing are the annual report project. And the reason for that is because Cengage apparently is not playing nice with Windows 11. And my home computer updated to Windows 11. And all of a sudden the Cengage stuff didn't work properly. And so now that I'm back on campus, I am going to try to get the Cengage stuff to update without causing havoc for people who are already registered. Normally, the Cengage links show up in the grade book. I can put the due dates right in Blackboard. As of now, those Cengage links did not come in. And so I'll be working on that today. Hopefully, I'm not going to goof anything up, and if I do, don't worry, we'll fix it. But it's all, it has something to do with Windows 11 and Cengage not getting along, apparently. Let's go next to the annual report project, since that's our next link here. The instructions for the annual report project are here. That's a Word document that you can download. The grading template just shows you how many points there are for each section. There's a formula sheet here that will help you with doing the financial analysis part of the project. There are also a couple of sample projects down here in this folder. Pepsi, Cabela's, and Hershey's. These are projects that were completed by students in a previous semester. Those students gave me permission to share their projects. I have removed their names, but they did give permission. So if you happen to see their name on something, please know that they did give me permission to use their projects as examples of what a good project looks like. They're all very different, but they all were very high scores, maybe even 80 out of 80. There's some sample templates here. These are Excel templates that, just so you know that they're here. So these may be helpful for you as you work on your project. You're not required to use them, but you may find them very beneficial. Open the instructions for the project. You'll notice the instructions have number 1, number 2, and number 3. Those numbers correspond to what I call in Blackboard steps 1, 2, and 3. Those are the due dates that you see. So the first instruction is choosing your company, and that's the part that is due on January 27th. So by next week, you should have chosen your company. Notice it explains here about your company. It needs to be publicly traded in the United States to confirm that they're preparing those statements in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. If you had me for financial accounting, you cannot use the same company that you used for financial accounting. You must choose another company. If you, before you choose your project, before you choose your company, you need to make sure it hasn't already been selected by someone else in the class, because I do not want to read 20 versions of exactly the same project. So you want to look at the discussion board. I'll show you that in just a moment. You want to look at the discussion board and just skim down the list and make sure that the company you want has not already been chosen. If 2 people do choose the same company, the first person will get that company approved. The second person will get a note from me that says, try again. So if we go back to the annual report project folder, you'll see this is step 1. I have repeated the instructions here. If you just click on that, it will take you to the discussion board. Whoops. What happened to the class? So you can, all these ones that say anonymous, you can ignore those. Those were not supposed to come over. Get rid of those. Those are from a previous semester. That's why they say anonymous. So we can see that 2 people, Madison and Carter, have already chosen their company. And when you put the name of your company as the subject of your post, then everyone else can see what company you've chosen. You're just going to come look at this list and say, oh, I can't choose Visa, I can't choose DraftKings, let me choose something else. The way you choose is by clicking Create Thread. The subject line is going to be the name of your company. You are welcome to type a message. You can tell me and everyone else why you chose that company or anything else. And then just hit submit. So you should have chosen your company. Oh, one other thing I should have mentioned, you also cannot choose one of the companies that has the sample project in there. So Cabela's, Hershey, and Pepsi. You cannot choose one of those companies for obvious reasons, even though that information is now outdated, it's still, those companies are not available to you. All right. So that's step one, due on January 27th. You need to have chosen your company. I will then go through and approve those or not approve them. If you see a 0 show up for your grade, that means your company wasn't approved. You want to go into the My Grades area. You go into the My Grades area. By each item, you'll see if a little blue like speech bubble. If you click on that, it should show you my comments, and I will have said, you can't use that company, and here's why. And I will tell you whether you need to choose a totally different company, or maybe it's just a different version of that company. So sometimes people want to select a company that is a subsidiary, and I might tell them you need to use the parent company, and here's what that parent company would be, and you need to tell me for sure, yes, you want to do that parent company. Step 2 of the project is not due until March, so we'll come back to this. But step 2 is to submit your sources, minimum of 3 sources. Step 3 is the full project. And the full project is due April 5th, so just before we go on break for spring recess. You do have the option of submitting a rough draft of the project, and that would be due March 29th, 1 week before the final submission is due. So we'll talk about that again as those dates approach. For now, the part you need to be doing is choosing your company. Publicly traded, can't be what you did in financial accounting, can't be one of the sample projects, and cannot be one that was chosen by someone else in the class already. Any questions about that? Okay. We shall move on. I'm going to skip down to the reference materials. I just want to make sure everybody sees this. There are a couple items here that are just review for you from financial accounting. You'll want to take a look at those, make sure they still make sense. If you look at those and say, I don't even know what this means, you'll want to go back and maybe review the first couple chapters of the textbook. I would suggest that you start with the summary of the first 3 chapters if you do want to do a bit of review. This is the fundamental accounting equation with normal balances marked, and there's a little bit of an explanation. This is the how do you write a journal entry, what needs to be included. And then this is the intro from last fall. You won't need to watch that because you'll have the intro from today if you needed to remind yourself of something. Then you see 14 more folders. The 14 folders, of course, correspond with the 14 chapters. At a minimum, what you will see in the 14 folders is a link to 2 videos, the 2 days that we spent on that chapter in class. Sometimes there are additional materials in there, like this page that was snipped from our textbook, that we'll use that for reference. There's a page here with some basic calculations, another, so this chapter happens to have a lot of stuff in the reference materials. Anything that I think would be helpful for you will be included there in the reference materials folder by chapter. This is where the link, so Thursday, when we have our first day on chapter 15, I will take down this link to the fall video and I'll put up the link to the spring one. So the links to the YouTube videos for the entire last semester are still in there. They're in there intentionally, and I will replace those as we create our own this semester. Any questions at this point? Let me go to the Cengage content. I cannot show you how to do this because it doesn't work the same on my end as it does on your end. Excuse me. For those of you who had me for financial accounting and you already have that code, you should be able to click on this link to Cengage CNOW V2 content. You should be able to click on that, and it's going to ask you to either log in or create an account. So if you already have an account with Cengage, you could just use your same login information. If you cannot remember it, I may be able, I personally can't tell you what it is, but I can, our textbook rep can probably help with that. But I would encourage you to try to figure it out on your own first. But she's very responsive if we do need her help to figure out what's going on with your account. I had a student last year who had actually set up a Cengage account when she had attended a different college. And so it actually did take Cengage intervening to basically move her account to JCC. If that applies to you, if you may have had a Cengage account with a different college, you probably will need some assistance with this to get the account moved over to JCC. If you did not have me for financial accounting and you are setting up your Cengage Unlimited Access for the first time, when you click on this link, you're just going to want to set up an account. Once you set up that account, and it sends you a verification email that you have to enter the code or whatever. Once you set up that account, then it will ask you if you want to buy the subscription. Please make sure that when you're buying is just the 4-month one for $119.99. You do not need longer than that for this class. And I don't want you to spend more money than you actually need to. Once you purchase that Cengage Unlimited subscription, it will take you right to the Cengage content that you need for this class. After you do it the first time, when you click on that link, it's just going to take you right in. You won't have to sign in every time. There's no course key for this class because you're logging in through Blackboard. It knows it's integrated. It knows which class it is. If you, for whatever reason, choose not to buy directly through Blackboard, the unlimited access can be purchased through the JCC bookstore. So for example, if you wanted to use financial aid to be able to pay for this for you, you would have to buy the subscription through the bookstore. It's the same price. It's a little bit more complicated though. It's a 2-step process because when you buy the access from the bookstore, they're going to give you an access key code. I cannot help you get that. If you buy the subscription from the bookstore should be sending you an email with that code. If you don't get it, you'll have to work with the bookstore to retrieve that code. I don't have a set of code. I don't have any codes. There's no access code. There's no course key that I can give you. You're, of course, welcome to buy the subscription from any source that you want. They may, I looked before, they do sell them on Amazon. It's the same price. So if you are paying out of pocket, it really is easier to just do it through Blackboard because then you don't have to worry about getting the code, buying a code that's already been used. I've had that happen to a student that bought from a third-party provider and the code had already been used. And so they were then, that student was then trying to recover their payment. It gets a little messy, and I would just, you get what you pay for. If you're trying to buy a bargain code, as I said, there's nothing I can do to help you if it doesn't work out for you. If you can, I would encourage you to buy it right here through Blackboard. There's not a way that I have ever seen to get it at less cost. There are directions here of how to get started if you want to see pictures of what I was just describing. There's a user guide here. It's about, I don't know, 80 pages long or something like that. But if you do have questions about how to use CNOW, once you're in there, you will find the answers almost certainly in that user guide. If you are having trouble getting this whole thing set up, please do not hesitate to ask for my help. You can set up a Zoom call is the easiest way to do it so that you can share your screen and I can walk through it with you. I'm very happy to do that. But don't wait until next week or 3 weeks from now, because starting Thursday, we will be using the See Now during class. And if you don't have access by Thursday, you will be having to redo work that we do together in class. And I don't know that that's a constructive use of your time. Questions, anybody? Okay. I'm going to go into Cengage. Now, of course, mine is going to look a little bit different than yours. But you will see it, just like I am seeing, you will see a list of assignments. There are 3 different tabs, I believe, that you will see. Assignments I can take now, assignments I can practice now, and all assignments. I mentioned already the idea of the practice set of exercises before each exam. Those will not show up on the assignments I can take now because they're not graded. So in particular for those, you will need to go to the assignments I can practice or the all assignments tab to be able to see those. Trust me, they're there. The due dates are already set up in Cengage. So the due dates that you see on the last page of the syllabus correspond with the due dates that are all in Cengage already for you. Hopefully soon, hopefully by Thursday, I will have those due dates on the Blackboard calendar as well. Because Starfish has a new cool feature this semester, is just rolled out, that all of the due dates that are in the Blackboard calendar are going to show up for you in Starfish. So you can go to the page of your assignments or your due dates calendar kind of thing, and it will show day by day all of the assignments that your instructors have put on the Blackboard calendar. It will pull them all in a calendar format. So that's kind of cool. I need to talk about each of the 3 different types of assignments, though, that we have. And I will start with the, let me just read over these assignments. Okay. So the reading of each chapter has been assigned in Cengage, just to remind you that you're supposed to read the chapter. You are responsible for all of the reading that's in the chapter. I do not stand here in class and repeat to you everything that's in the chapter, although I do some of that. Unless I specifically tell you a section of the chapter is not required, you are expected to read the entire chapter. And almost all the time that will be the case, that you're responsible for what's in the textbook. So the date that I've assigned for the reading is always the first day we work on the chapter in class, according to the syllabus. Same due date for the pre-quiz. The pre-quiz, and this is important, in order to get credit for the pre-quiz, you need to score a 60% or higher. You have unlimited times that you can change your answer until you get it right to get to that 60% or higher. It's a 0 or 1. If you don't do it or score less than 60%, it's a 0. If you take the quiz and score 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%, it's full credit. Please do not hit submit for grading until you've reached that 60%. If you accidentally do that, you'll need to have me reopen it for you so you can keep trying. You have unlimited attempts at each question until you hit submit for grading. At that point, you are locked out. The pre-quiz is not meant to be closed notes or anything like that. Again, it's due, all the due dates are all the due times are just before midnight on the day that they're due. And the intent of the pre-quiz is to get you looking at the reading, thinking about the terminology and concepts in the chapter before we actually are working on the chapter in class. That's why you don't have to do stellar job. You just have to achieve a 60% to get full credit for that. It's just to get you thinking about it and looking at it and working on it. They're meant to be taken with full access to your book. Please do not feel like you're supposed to be doing them without your book. It's intended. If you want to look up every question in your book, that's fine. It gets to exactly what I'm trying to do, which is get you to be looking at that chapter before we're working on it in class. Questions about the pre-quiz? So there's one for each semester, or one for each chapter, and each one is due on the day that we start that chapter in class. If you find it helpful to wait until after that first day of class to finish the pre-quiz, you're welcome to do that. Everything's due before midnight on the day it's due. Then for each chapter, we have a set of 10 exercises. I just opened the 10 exercises for chapter 15. You'll notice that you can skip around. So I could go to exercise 9, go to exercise 3. The exercises are all from the end of the chapter. Some of them, like this one, is really just a multiple choice kind of question. Most of the time, those I will ask you to do on your own outside of class. But the vast majority of the exercises that we do, we will do together during class time. And so you are not expected or required by any means to work on these exercises outside of class before class. Some people do find that helpful. So I know each semester I usually have 1 or 2 people who goes ahead because you just want to try things on your own, or you're excited about it or whatever. And that's fine, perfectly fine, but it's not needed. When there are exercises that I'm asking you to do outside of class, like these multiple choice kind of ones, I will make that very clear during class. It will also be in the announcement. You're asked to do 2, 3, and 7 outside of class on your own. Some of the multiple choice ones we will do together in class, or at least start together during class. So again, you're not required to do anything on your own unless I specifically say that. If you did miss a class, then watching that video will allow you to see us going through that exercise as a class. You'll notice by each exercise, there's a white open circle here. If I worked on this exercise, it would then show like a half green circle. And once you complete the exercise, it will show you that it's completed. It will be fully green. Every exercise has these check my work buttons. So if you are working on this on your own, you can check your work and see if your answers are correct. It will show you a red X if they're wrong, a green check mark if they're correct. So there's no reason to submit work that isn't completed and done correctly, because you can see your grade, you can see your score, you can see what's wrong and have a chance to fix it. This is also true for the homework problems. So on the homework problems, which are generally done outside of class on your own, you're welcome to work with other people. If you have a friend in the class, or if you have a friend who's not in the class but knows something about accounting, you are welcome to work with others on the exercises if you do them outside of class on the problem. You're welcome to ask me for help on any of this. That's my job, literally what I get paid to do. So feel free to ask. Don't think that, well, it's the homework problem, I'm supposed to do it on my own. Yes, I'd like you to try it on your own, but then if you need help, ask for help. At least 1 or maybe even 2 or 3 of the problems for this semester, there are videos of me doing the problems with another class. And so you are welcome to use those. Check the reference materials folder for each chapter as we start the chapter so that you know what's in there. Some of the exercises also have, I can find one here. Here's one. So some of the exercises also have this show me how tutorial video. So if it's an exercise that we're not doing together in class, you are welcome to use that show me how, which gives you a little bit more detail than the check my work button. So 10 exercises for each chapter. That's a total of 140 exercises during the semester. The exercises in total account for 10% of your grade. So given that it tells you if your answer is correct, and you have unlimited attempts to work on these before you hit submit for grading at the end, there's no reason that you should not just earn that 10%. Same thing is true for the 10% that are for the pre-quizzes and the 15% that's for the problems. So if you do those and spend the time needed to make sure you're getting them right, that's 35% of the points for this class that you have total control over whether you earn those points or not. Only you decide when to hit submit for grading. I already told you, if you need extra time, you can do that. So there's really no reason that you shouldn't earn all 35% of those points. You can ask for help, you can work with others, you can use the check my work unlimited amount of times. So on Thursday, when we actually start the first chapter, on Thursday, we will be in these exercises and starting work on them. So it's definitely in your best interest for those of you who did not have me for financial accounting, if you can get your subscription before Thursday so you can be working on these. Otherwise, if there's a delay in you getting that subscription, you'll need to come back and redo those exercises that we will have already done together as a class. Questions? Anybody? So the pre-quiz for chapter 15 is due on Thursday, and then we'll work on the chapter exercises on Thursday and then next Tuesday, and then the exercises will be due by the end of the day on Tuesday. Then the problem for the chapter is due on Thursday of next week, so it's due the next class day. So this is the problem. Any questions? Again, you can see the check my work button. You can see the assignment score down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So it starts at 0, and your goal, of course, is to get it to 100%. If you're stuck, if something's wrong, if something's missing, if it's not, this happens occasionally, something's missing and it's not giving you a 100% score, but you can't see something that isn't filled in, I will be glad to help you with that after you've spent a reasonable amount of time trying to find it on your own. By reasonable, I don't mean 30 seconds, but I also don't mean 2 hours. Do not spend 2 hours trying to find something. Usually when that happens, it's something really silly and small, and you may not find it on your own. So feel free to ask for help. That's the kind of thing, though, that I do have to be sitting at my computer to be able to answer. So a lot of questions I can answer just in an email. But that kind of a question where I need to get into your exercise and see what you are doing will take me until I can get to a computer, which may not be the minute that you send the email. Other than that, if you send me an email, please just check your email for a response. I cannot tell, I've been teaching for over 20 years now, and I cannot tell you how often it happens that a student will come into class and say, I sent you an email, and I say, yes, I responded last Thursday when you sent it. Oh, I didn't look. If you send me an email, please look for the response, because most of the time I will respond to you in minutes. It's not instant messaging, it's not texting, I get that, but at least by 3 days later, if you sent me an email, you probably should check your email to see if I answered, especially if it's a time-sensitive kind of thing. I try to be available when you are able to work on stuff. So I do try very hard to get back to you immediately whenever I can do that. But one of the advantages, one of the reasons that I really like this software is that I can get into your exercise or your problem and see exactly what you've done. And so if you have wrong answers and you're asking me for help, feel free to leave your wrong answers in there so I can see what you were trying to do. Because that allows me to be even more helpful. Okay, questions? Anybody?
Professor?
Yeah.
So we should have chapter 15 read by Thursday, correct?
In a perfect world, Simon, yes. Everyone will have read every word of chapter 15 before Thursday. In the real world in which we all live, I know that's probably not going to happen. And so in practice, most of the chapters we go through sequentially. So we start at the beginning and we work our way through the end. Very rarely do I jump around in a chapter. Occasionally it happens that I think things make sense in a different order. But most of the time we start at the beginning and work through to the end. So it's really helpful if you have at least looked at, say, the first half of the chapter. It's reasonable to think we're covering half of the chapter each of the class days. So even if that means reading the summary at the end of the chapter and just getting a sense of the headings in the chapter, the major ideas in the chapter is really helpful.
Okay.
But by all means, if people want to read the entire chapter before we start the chapter, that's terrific. But I know that everyone's lives are extremely busy, and so I don't expect you to have done that. Even though
Gotcha. Sounds good. All right.
Other questions? There definitely is information in the book that I do not say to you in class because I assume you're going to read it. So I do give you the high points. We do go over in the exercises. I really like to have class time be what I think of as the doing of accounting, not so much the talking about accounting. So I will sprinkle in some of the stuff from the textbook, but most of our time will be spent working through, okay, we know why because we read it in the book. Now here's the how. How do we write an income statement? How do we determine inventory balances for this manufacturing company?
All right. And then the exercises we do together in class, you said, right?
Virtually all of the exercises we do together.
Okay.
All of them we at least talk about in class, and then sometimes, like these multiple choice ones, I will say, okay, we talked about it, we looked at a few of these so you get the idea, now finish them up on your own. Because when it's multiple choice like this, you truly could go down the list and
Right.
like
Right.
I'm doing right now and choosing direct materials cost for every one of them. And then choosing check my work. Oh, I can see which ones are wrong. Now I'm just going to change those to direct labor and see how close I get.
Yeah.
So,
I've used that method a couple times.
yeah, I don't encourage that, but I'm not naive, and clearly that can work. So it does not help you learn the material. My job is to help you learn the material. My job is not to help you get a good grade. So just while I'm talking, I got a 10%. You can now see the green check mark is in there. You can see the grade of 10%. And did I learn anything from this exercise? No. I learned how to make the green check marks appear and the red X's go away. I didn't even read any of the problem. So I would prefer you didn't do that because it doesn't help you learn. And every one of these exercises I chose because it somehow relates to what we're doing in this chapter and it will help you to understand the material better. But there's no way for me to know if you actually do that. If you just go down and say product, 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 and then change the ones that get red X's to period cost. So, but yes, all of the exercises we will talk about in class, most of them we do completely together in class. And so unless you just really excited and want to work ahead, you're not required to do any of these exercises before the first class meeting. And on Thursday, we will know which of these I will ask you to do on your own outside of class. So that's everything for the class. Everything is in Cengage. You can see that the practice sets and the exam, the practice set is not graded. The practice set is just a set of exercises. They're very similar to the exercises that we do in class. The practice exercises are set up. I put this together after I made the exam. And so I looked at what did I put on the exam, and I went to find exercises that would help you with that, to make sure that you understand how to do that or help you review. For this semester, because we have 4 exams and 14 chapters, the exams cover 3 or 4 chapters. So it goes 4, 3, 4, 3 for the 4 exams. That's a lot of material. So by the time we finish the 4th chapter for exam 1, maybe you kind of put out of your head some of the stuff from the 1st chapter. This practice set will help you to refresh your memory or to point out areas where you might need to go back and do a bit more review. Everything for the class then, with the exception of the annual report project, every graded item is in C Now. And they are all available to you at this point. I would not encourage you to go ahead. That being said, if you have a personal reason that maybe you're not available for class, the 3rd week in the semester, you have access to all the materials and you can work ahead to be on track. I would recommend, if that's the case, that you just let me know, hey, I'm not going to be around the week of March 1st. You don't have to tell me why. I don't need to know any of your personal information. But if you have a vacation planned, or you are having surgery that week, or whatever, you absolutely can work ahead because everything is there. And I would prefer to have you work ahead rather than get behind, so that when you get back from your surgery or vacation or whatever, that you are trying to play catch up. I would prefer to have you work ahead rather than get behind. Any other questions? Okay. I want to take just a few more minutes then to do just a brief review from financial accounting. And where I am right now is in the reference materials folder. This is the top level of that folder. And then remember, if you scroll down, you'll see separate folders for each one of the chapters. So these are on the top level because these apply to the entire course. These 2 top items are review from financial accounting. The first one, I just want to remind you of the expanded fundamental accounting equation. Assets on the left, everything else is on the right-hand side of the equals. Liabilities plus common stock plus retained earnings minus dividends plus revenues minus expenses. Let me get so if I just were to draw a line down right here, the accounts to the left of that are what we call the permanent or real accounts. Those are the accounts that carry their balances forward from one period to the next. To the right are the temporary or nominal accounts. Those accounts get closed out at the end of each accounting period, and the summary of those gets rolled into retained earnings. So revenues minus expenses gives us income. We add that to retained earnings, or if there's a loss, we subtract that. Dividends get subtracted from retained earnings. Each one of these types of accounts shows the T account here. And so you can see the plus side is what's called the normal balance for that account. That's the side of the T, the side of the account that's used to increase that account. The left hand is called the debit side. Debit just means left. That's all it means. The right hand side is called the credit side. So assets increase on the left or debit side and decrease on the credit side. If I were just write $500, so if I just wrote 500 here, it's a little big, on the credit side of the asset account, that would mean we reduce the value of that asset by $500. So by looking at this as a reference, you can remind yourself of which side is the normal balance for each one of those accounts. How do we increase or decrease each of those accounts? That should be something that is fresh in your mind. If you are listening to me thinking, yeah, I don't remember any of that, that's fine. That's why this is here for reference. Please make sure you are using it for reference until it's back fresh in your mind again. Does anyone have a question you want to ask about that accounting equation? As I said, if you're feeling really lost looking at this, my first step for you would be to go back in the textbook. You do have access to the entire ebook, and there's a link right here to the ebook. You can also access that from the Cengage app. There's an app you can put on your phone. You can access it from the Cengage website if that's easier, if you're not in CNow at the time. If you open that book, you have access to all 28 chapters of the book. The introductory chapters are chapters 1, 2, and 3. That's really the foundation of accounting stuff. And so if you're feeling like you're totally not remembering any of this, I would go back to those 3 chapters and just read the summaries, and that should help. If you're still feeling like I'm not there, read through the highlights of each chapter, ask me for help, schedule time with me to go over stuff if you are just feeling kind of lost. Okay. The other item that's here in the main reference part I mentioned earlier is the required form for a journal entry. The first time we do a journal entry in class, I will remind you of this, but this is here as a refresher. Every journal entry must include at least 2 account titles. You must have at least 1 debited and 1 credited account for every transaction. The idea of double entry accounting that's been around for over 500 years. So you have to have a date that it becomes effective. The 2 account titles, 1 debited, the debited account is listed first, the credited account or accounts are listed after the debited accounts, and they are indented. Our software, the CNow software, automatically indents the credited accounts for you once you put the dollar amount in the credit column. And then you need a debit dollar amount and a credit dollar amount. For a simple entry like this, where there are just 2 accounts, those amounts have to be equal. If you have a compound transaction where you have more than 1 debited and or more than 1 credited account, you add up the debited dollars and the credited dollars, and they need to be equal in total. There'd also be then a brief explanation. For our class, we normally just omit those explanations, but if this was a real world situation, there would be a brief explanation with each journal entry that says why you're doing that. It's like your documentation might refer to an invoice number or a check number or some other kind of documentation. One more, I'll take just a couple more minutes and we won't keep you the whole time today. One more reminder though, this is from financial accounting, and mostly this is not as important for us in managerial accounting. So the difference between financial and managerial accounting is really the intended audience for the reports or the information that's coming out. Who are the users of that information? Financial accounting is aimed toward external users. So it could be stockholders, creditors, it could be regulators, it could be just interested, other interested parties, customers, suppliers, vendors. So in financial accounting, we were learning what's called GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, GAAP, and we had some standards that we had to follow so that everything was comparable, so that if I published financial statements, people would know what I was doing. In financial accounting, and we covered the 4 financial statements, and this is the order in which they would be prepared. The income statement, the statement of stockholders, statement of stockholders' equity, balance sheet, and the 4th one that we covered in chapter 13 at the very end of that semester, the cash flow statement, statement of cash flows. So those are the 4 financial statements. And they are, although you might see them with slightly different titles, when you look at your company that you're going to choose for the annual report project, there's some companies, instead of calling it the income statement, might call it the statement of activities, for example. And that's fine. They still have the same format. The income statement is revenues minus expenses equals net income or net loss. Statement of stockholders' equity shows the beginning balances and all the equity accounts, all the changes that happen, and the ending balances. The balance sheet is the fundamental accounting equation. Assets equals liabilities plus equity. Here's the detail, and they balance. And then the cash flow statement is really to explain in the 3 different types of activities: operating, investing, and financing activities, the change in our cash that was related to those 3 different types of activities, and then the reconciliation with the cash from the balance sheet. So we're explaining why our cash changed during the period. Every company that's publicly traded is required to do those 4 financial statements, have them audited along with the notes to the financial statements, and share that with the public. That's the basis for our annual report project. There is virtually nothing we are going to do this semester that's going to give you more insight into that annual report project, because we learned all of that in financial accounting. What you'll see in managerial accounting as we work through this semester is that the focus of managerial accounting is not those outside people, those decision makers who are external to the company, but it's designed for internal users. It's designed to help management run our company. And so one of the differences is that financial accounting is, by requirement, by its nature, it's retrospective. So it's reporting on what happened last month, last quarter, last year. Managerial accounting is prospective in most cases. We're looking forward and we are forecasting what we are going to do. It doesn't mean we don't use any information from the past, but we use that to make decisions about the future.
Excuse me, does anybody own a blue Saturn SUV?
So managerial accounting is to help internal decision makers make decisions about how best to run the company. The other thing that's going to change this semester, as contrasted with financial accounting, is in financial accounting, we focused mainly on companies that were merchandising companies, that were retail companies, that were buying product and reselling it. And occasionally we talked about what does this look like for a service company, but our focus was on merchandising. This semester, our focus will be on companies that are manufacturing, they're making the product that they sell. And you'll see that starting on Thursday as we get into what does it look like? What are the different accounting issues? But just keep in mind as we go through this, that we have less of the framework like we have in generally accepted accounting principles, it says you must do this, or we have these two options, but you have to do one of them. In managerial accounting, it's a lot more flexible. Sometimes in managerial accounting, we are given a question or a problem or asked to report on something we've never been asked to do before. So some people really like managerial accounting because it can be different every day. And you might be able to be a little bit more creative. How do we answer that question? Management wants to know this. How do we help them answer that? How do we help them make that decision? In addition, we'll be looking at a company that's making a product which is more complex than just buying a product from someone else and reselling it. So on Thursday, we will start with what kind of costs go into making the product and what does that look like on our financial statements. And that is where I'm going to wrap up for today, let you go a little bit early. Any questions, comments before I stop the recording?
So the textbook we need to buy is it in the I mean, it's in our Blackboard somewhere. Is it in that, what's that one app we're using? Like,
Yeah, so
see?
it's Cengage See Now. Yep.
Yeah.
So once you have access to See Now, the textbook is integrated right in that app. So
Yep,
you don't
that's
need
what
to buy anything other than the subscription, and that will get you access to this, which is See Now, as well as the textbook.
Oh, okay.
So
Awesome.
now, since you mentioned that, for people who are buying a new subscription for this semester, you should also know you can rent. Because you have that subscription, if you really want to have a physical book, if the idea of this 5-pound mammoth of a textbook is really, if you're old school like me and you just like to be able to have it in front of you, you can rent a textbook for the semester, up to 4 actually, through Cengage Unlimited. I think it's $7.99, and that's with the shipping. So they send it to you, they give you an envelope to be able to send it back to them at the end of the semester. So it's a very nominal charge if you wanted to have a physical book to rent.
All righty.
I'm going to stop the recording.